My name is Maria Kent Beers, and my co-host Rachel Martinez and I are pleased to present Remember Me. This podcast is dedicated to preserving the memories of those diagnosed with FTD. We hope this episode leaves you feeling more connected, provides a deeper understanding, and allows you to learn to accept the good. Always, always accept the good. This is Remember Me.
This is who I am, where I come from.
So today we are here with Brittany, and Brittany is going to tell us the story of her lovely mother, Lisa. How are you doing, Brittany? You ready?
I'm great. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to talk about it.
Awesome. As you know, we just like to kind of start with, from your perspective, what were those first things that you saw with your mom that made you go, wait a minute, something's going on here?
Yeah, so my mom's always been a very eccentric woman to begin with. She's always loved the finer things in life, a little bit of vanity and materialism, but super loving, always the center of attention, the dancing queen. So she was always just that bright light in the room and, always would speak what's on her mind. I think that we start to see a change in her starting around 2006 or so. That's when I first met my husband, now husband. And so just you start to see the lack of empathy, couldn't really speak on the phone anymore, or I'd be telling her something very serious, like, for example, a friend passing, and she'd be like, did you change the sheets on your bed? Be like, what, Mom? Oh, she's like, oh, sorry. Anyway, keep talking about that. In like 2001, 2002, she was in 2 very serious car accidents. So when it came time to kind of figuring out what was going on with her, that's where the traumatic brain injury kind of idea came through, because she was in those 2 really bad car accidents. Going into 2006, when my parents moved from Eastern Long Island to upstate New York, just the odd behavior started, just little things here and there, especially that lack of empathy, laughing at inappropriate times.
The 2 car accidents, was that just really unlucky? So can you explain like what happened there?
We grew up in a very, believe it or not, rural part of Eastern Long Island. I grew up on a horse farm out there. So it's busy now this time of year. Everyone likes to come pick apples and pumpkins and do all the farm stuff. But growing up there my whole life, there were a lot of these roads that weren't meant to have as many cars on them as they did. So one of our car accidents was, both of them were unlucky. One farm road, she was hit. My sister and her were T-boned and flew across a farm field. And the other one is the time of beepers. I called my mom's office and she never showed up to work to later beep my dad to find out she was in the hospital. A county trailer kind of unhinged and flew right into her car. And flew into the windshield. Wow. So those are 2 very unlucky. Incidents. We like to say my mom has 9 lives, because she's been through between my birth, which was extremely traumatic for her. She almost passed away during that, to having a blood vessel, I believe, on her heart burst, to a bunch of other things. My mom it's had many lives, many lives. Very lucky.
A little kitty cat.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
After the car accidents, that's not when the behavior began now?
No, but that kind of takes us back to something of that made us think, like, why is she acting like this? Could those have been the car accidents? Because after those car accidents, she was on anxiety medication. So to kind of like calm her anxiety, obviously being through those car accidents really affected her. So that kind of plays into what we thought might be the issue a couple years down the road.
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, so 2 questions. One, when you would ask her, what's wrong, Mom? Why are you acting this way? What would she say? And then what led you to actually bringing her into the doctor?
She was convinced, or not, I don't know if I would say convinced, but she definitely used menopause as like, maybe it's just a change in my hormones. I'm not sure what's going on. And we're like, okay, makes sense. But like I said, it wasn't outside my mom's norm to spend a lot of money, to demand things that might not be, realistic. So Yeah, it's not like she was a quiet person that it all of a sudden started becoming eccentric. It was just amplifying some of her negative attributes. When we brought it up to her, it was like nothing was wrong. But like I said, in that '06 period, when we started to see things, she picked up a hitchhiker on the side of the road in upstate New York where you had no cell phone service, where she was by herself driving her Mercedes, and then came home and was like, I drove a hitchhiker today. And we're like, what?
Whoa.
Like, you have no cell phone service. You were by
Whoa.
yourself. You know, what do you mean? That's like, she acted like it was nothing wrong or not out of the norm.
Judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So definitely the bad judgment. There were things of when my parents went to like a car auction, for example, just to look at the fun old luxury cars for sale, that she literally threw a tantrum and had to have the next car that came up on the auction block. So thank God it wasn't like $100,000 or something.
Yeah, imagine your dad's like holding the paddle.
Yeah.
Wow.
So where you couldn't talk her down. So, or her all of a sudden needing plastic surgery and what, like, this doesn't make any sense. And then her exploding at my 30th birthday party in front of my family, in front of my cousins, because family has always been everything to her. She's never had a lot of friends, like close girlfriends, but she's been really close to her sisters. So, you know, at my 30th birthday party, we decided to go to the horse races and, you know, have a big dinner. And we were singing a song like Sweet Caroline. You know, we've been having a couple drinks all day, having a good time, but she just stood up in front of the restaurant, you know, a table of like 20, and just started laying into my cousin. And my mom's sister, my aunt, was like, what is happening here? Like almost the kind of argument that like, that's why sisters don't talk anymore. So those types of things we'd bring up to her later and be like, nothing's wrong. I just felt this way. And don't question me. I'm your mother.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And at what point were you able to start getting some answers? What was that road to diagnosis?
So I got married in 2014. And right before that, this was definitely a trigger that we now look back and be like, oh my God, this, you know, was one of those things that makes so much sense. You know, we're at our family's beach cottage, and we had a bunch of friends there and boyfriends or whatever at the time. And she was talking about us getting married in the church, and my husband and I weren't sure what we were going to do. And she just exploded. And it was about her and like her being embarrassed that raised in a Catholic home that we weren't getting married in a church. But it was like, wasn't the right time for the conversation, but she was livid. I've never heard her yell so loud. So, and it was in front of not just our family, but our friends. And my now husband probably sat there and was like, okay, am I sure about this?
Right.
How do I bow out gracefully?
Yeah. He's like, so I'm going to go jump in the water now. No.
Right.
So there's definitely like those things that, like I said, were those light bulbs. But in around 2017, my sister encouraged, because she was living here and like we talk almost every day, but she was definitely seeing something that wasn't right. And that comes back to the TBI. Maybe it was the TBI from the car accidents impacting her, you know, 12 years, 15 years later. So she encouraged my mom in 2017 to seek help. So she made an appointment with her primary, and my mom was a no call, no show. So she was still driving herself around. It was very unlike her to miss an appointment. She just didn't go. So my sister's like, they called her and they were like, Elizabeth never showed up for her appointment. And we, you know, talked to my mom, and it was like nothing even happened. Mm-hmm. And then they rescheduled. My sister went with my mom, and then we were referred to her neurologist at that point in 2017. We were referred to the neurologist, but we didn't have the greatest experience. That doctor did an MRI to look at the shrinkage of the brain. And he told my sister and my dad that it was just something to monitor, and also alluded to she's just eccentric. And so my sister and dad came home, and they're like, this just doesn't seem right. So one of my sister's good friends, she recommended the neurology department, Glens Falls Neurology, and they were amazing. I mean, the social worker when we finally got her diagnosis, we did a whole call together to talk about the diagnosis. They saw the nurse practitioner there. Her name is Ruth. She was incredible. And she referred us to a neuropsychologist. And they did extensive tests on her, about an hour and a half, and came out with it as like, she can't problem solve. She can't do simple math. And she got the diagnosis in January of 2018, so of FTD. And they saw a major shrinkage in the brain. They don't know how the other neurologists missed it. They were like, this is extremely serious. And I remember I was at CES in Vegas, the Consumer Electronics Show, for work. And my sister called me. I was like, I'm in Vegas. It's fine. I'm not. Am I working? Maybe.
I'm working. I'm daydreaming.
Yeah. I'm walking around looking at really cool technology.
Right.
Wow. And she was just like, we found out what my mom has. It's FTD. And I was like, okay. And she's like, specifically, it's the behavioral variant. I was like, okay. I was like, and I've heard this on your podcast before, like the flower deliveries. Like, what is FTD? You know, I thought all dementia was blanketed as Alzheimer's as all the same. So I was like, I've got to look this up. I was kind of having like, I stepped away. I was like, can I call you back? And it was definitely interesting when my sister, when they got the diagnosis, they suggested that my sister tell her because they didn't want to ruin that patient, you know, practitioner relationship, because my mom could definitely get an opinion in her head and then never return to that doctor because they said something was wrong. So my sister actually delivered her the news. We were talking about that earlier today, that was just interesting that we had to tell her, my sister had to tell her. And when she told her, she's like, nothing's wrong with me, but she wasn't comprehending, you know. If you asked her what was wrong with her today, her words are muttered and, you know, very slurred, but she would tell you there's nothing wrong with her. So yeah, so we got that diagnosis in 2018, and things have definitely, they plateaued for a little while and rapidly declined as in the last year.
How
It's a
old was
long
she?
road.
Yeah.
Yeah. At diagnosis.
She was 60 at diagnosis. She'll be 63 November 14th of this year. But she's definitely, now that we look back at it and when we got that and the more we learned, because we got ourselves super educated, I've gone to support groups, continually go to support groups, have gone to the AFTD conferences. We're like, this explains so much over the last 10, even longer years when we look back at it and think about the things she was doing between, especially the last couple of years, the excessive spending, you know, ordering multiples of things. We went through that phase. We went through the angry phase, the phase I'm stealing from my parents, you know, the really harsh, mean phase, to obviously it's lack of empathy. So it explained so much of her behavior.
Right.
Absolutely.
And how has it been for you being apart? I mean, when did you move out to California?
So I moved out to California at the height of the recession. So in 2009, yeah.
Come on down.
Come on to California. I worked in the newspaper industry at the night desk, which was a really exciting job. The newspaper got sold. My lease was up. My now husband / friend from college, you know, was out there. And I was like, kind of like this dude. We hung out a little bit after graduation. I'm like, and he's working for the U.S., still works for the U.S. government. He's like, hey, come out. Like, let's give this a shot. I'm like, I'm Miss Independent, you know, snap my fingers. And
Yeah.
like, am I going to move cross country for a boy? Like, I always wanted to move to California, so why not? So mom actually flew out with me, helped me ship my stuff out, stayed for a while to get me set up to be like a built-in friend. She used to fly out to California every year for a couple of weeks in the winter from New York. So being apart from that, like her and this diagnosis, I didn't see the decline as much as at first. So it's definitely, you can't help but feel guilty for not being there all the time. I'm so fortunate that my dad, my sister, and I are so supportive of each other, have the same ideas for care for my mom, that we can each support each other from no matter how far we are. My mom's family, my dad's family, like, they're all so supportive and amazing. I can't imagine doing this without a system and people to lean on and cry on and laugh with during it, because you have to find the light in every day. I mean, you have to. There's always sun after the darkest storm. That's what I keep telling myself during this and telling my sister and my dad. So there's definitely the guilt of not being here for the ins and outs. But I know my sister and my dad are really taking care of her the best they can. So there is that guilt of not being
Of course.
close. Yeah. But
I imagine if you think about your mom when she was healthy, what would she want? She moved you out to California and she helped you get out there and supported you. I'm sure it would make her so happy to know that you have continued to live your life as best you can through this tragedy in your family. There are so many similarities. My mom's very eccentric as well, an artist. And for a while, I feel like we just accepted like that maybe she was just being a little leaning into her artistness.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what I used to say is like Lisa being Lisa. Like my cousins were all really close. Like, that's just crazy Lisa, you know?
I feel like we got used to it for so long, and we would make fun of it too. Like some of the things she'd do, like she abbreviated. Like my mom has the language variant, so like her language was weird, but we're like, this is her just like being quirky. And so I look back and I think my mom probably could have had it as long as your mom, maybe.
I
Yeah,
always think
go
there's a
ahead.
disclaimer I would tell my friends, like, oh, my mom's just, just like I said, like a little crazy, a little eccentric, but she's really fun, things like that. Like kind of not making excuses for her, but she would blurt out things that were on her mind or interject herself or say inappropriate comments. So it's just things of just kind of explaining it away or kind of giving my friends that disclaimer. I'll never forget when she came to visit me, and I used to work at a digital agency in downtown San Diego, and I was so excited to show her office and for her to meet my boss. I just remember her coming to see the office and just walked straight into his office. He's one of the founders and he's the COO, and I'm pretty sure he was on a call at the time. And she just walked straight in and she puts her hand out and goes, "I'm Mrs. Elizabeth Rain." And I was like, he could see me through the glass of his office just being like, oh dear.
Oh my God.
Palms to face, like, oh, that's my mom, so it definitely makes sense for friends that have met her on the East Coast or friends that have known me for a long time that have probably noticed that shift versus newer friends at this stage of my life of just like, okay, this does make sense when you explained like something was, a little bit different around your mom, but she was still friendly and loving and really nice, but she was a little quirky. So it just puts that kind of that corner piece to the puzzle.
Something we haven't talked too much about on the podcast, but I think is something that many people in this FTD community go through is that anxiety of being in public and those cringeworthy moments. A lot of times they're around like, weddings or like big life events. And a lot of the topics that come up in the podcast, I know it's really comforting to people in this community to hear us talk about that. So I guess I just want to thank you for bringing that up because somebody is going to relate to that.
Yeah.
I related to that. My mom had some really weird things around my wedding. Like her go-to phrase anytime we talked about anything related to planning was, "That's not appropriate." Like I'd be like, "I want a seated plated meal," and she'd go, "That's not appropriate." And we're like, "What are you talking?" Like she was just like insane. Like and it wasn't her personality, and it was like so cringy. But yeah, I appreciate when you open up about those things because they're not good memories, of course. But I think that someone might hear that and be like, "Oh, we had a really uncomfortable, like family dinner." And
yeah, it's definitely hard. I mean, those cringeworthy moments you talk about, we used to go out to eat a lot, and then weird things of getting up, demanding things at the table. We have these cards that my aunt made that we hand out, just like my loved one has a cognitive disease. Please be patient. So it makes it easier for people that don't understand. If I say the word FTD, no one was going to, not a lot of people will know what I'm talking about. Or dementia,
like, she's bringing flowers.
Yeah. Yes. Or dementia, people are like, oh, she might just forget what she ordered, right? Because like I said, until I became extremely knowledgeable about this, I had no idea. I thought everything was like, she'll just forget things over time and that'll be that, and she'll die at an old age, and now she's, almost 63 and can't find her words and can't even shower herself or put her own clothes on. So it's definitely, my sister and I have grown a lot too. I'm like, we can handle anything after this.
Oh yeah. 1,000%.
Have a follow-up to where she's at now. She's at home. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. She's at home, and we've gone back and forth with the facility idea. But for the level of care that she needs right now, where she used to be sedentary and sit and you could put her in front of the TV, not that that's what you want to do. But we went through phases of just want to online shop all day to just want to watch murder shows all day, like obsessed, would watch, Poltergeist, and nothing's wrong with it. I'm like, is this the fifth or time you've watched this murder show on Netflix, Mom? So where she used to be a little more sedentary and just, she would play games and color and stuff like that. Now she's pacing more. She's in that pacing stage. So we have reverse locks in the doors, and like the yard is locked and gated. So she can wander a little bit, but can't get too far. So the level of care she needs, she can't just, and you guys understand this, can't just be put in a memory care facility and then they check on her a couple times a day. She needs someone to be in the same room with her, because you might find her trying to brush her teeth with a hand soap, which just happened, or with 3 pairs of pants on, which happened the other day. So we've decided that right now with the level of care that's needed, we have 2 aides that come in, for a couple hours a day. So my dad can work with the horses a little bit and kind of get his peace of mind. And she's definitely easier at night. She is a sundowner, but she goes to bed at 7 p.m. now too, and doesn't get up too much. But we've decided that we're going to try the live-in. So we're testing out a live-in actually next Monday. So fingers crossed, it's the angel in disguise. We're fortunate enough to have a house that's big enough for a live-in. So we'd like to keep her at home as long, if not as we can, if not till the end.
One hint for the live-in caregiver and the listeners: baby monitors are a godsend. So you put it on, I mean, it's simple. You put it where the person can see, and you can have it like make a beep if she moves, so it wakes the person up in the middle of the night. So, I mean, my kids are 3 and 5, and I still check on them through a baby monitor.
Oh my God.
It's okay.
I
just
will
want to
be
make
doing
sure
that
they're
until
safe.
they're like 12. Come on.
Wait, I have a baby monitor for my dogs. No, I'm just kidding. We do have a couple of cameras in the house too for motion detection.
That's good.
So when my dad, when she used to be able to be in the house and he wanted to like mow the yard, because my dad doesn't know what to do. He's not working. So just doing something, he's always very hands-on. So we had like motion detectors in the house, and then buzzers on the doors, which is what the aides have requested too. So
is she talking at all now, or is it?
She is. Some days she's quieter than others. It's definitely like mixing up of words too, where she'll say, she means to say, look at my bracelet, but she'll be like, look at my breakfast. So we have, the first letters there. She's a couple months ago, it was more slurring, almost like a drunk person trying to talk. But now she's just not finding the right words or not finishing her sentences. So I'm trying to get her to read a little bit every day out loud to me, just even if it's an ad or something like that. But yeah, her speech is going. But today she couldn't wait to ask me, are you buying me a ticket to California? So she brings up California sometimes.
Sweet mom.
Yeah. So I know I would love to take her. We would love to. I just don't know if that's possible anymore.
My dad, I don't know if you're familiar with Camarillo.
Yep.
Okay. So that's where we got married. And my dad was down in, thank you. My dad was at the time down kind of like Buena Park, Orange County, Westminster area. So that drive would have been 2.5 hours maybe. And my dad's doctor's advice was, remember the drive back. So I wanted him at my wedding, obviously. He wasn't in a wheelchair yet. I think he was still kind of talking. But he was in a facility. He hadn't seen anybody besides me and my mom for a very long time. So to be just like thrown in a group like that might've been a lot. So that was his advice. He's like, you could get him up there and he could freak out and need to leave. And then it's the 2.5 hour drive home. So I don't even know if you wanted my advice on bringing your mom to California, but you never think of that part. Like, well, they still have to get back. If we get her out here and everything's great and she's happy, there could be an instance that makes her upset. And then it's the 6-hour flight home.
Yeah. So I don't even know if we could put her on a plane anymore. I think she's really good in cars still. Like she'll drive in cars, but we've definitely had to put the child locks on because she's tried to open the door, on the highway because she wants to get out for some weird reason. But yeah, we'd love to like try to get her out there. We're trying to buy a house right now. So if we're able to get a house, then maybe the live-in, my dad and her could take the drive out, but it's a very long drive back, like you say. Right. So she's also in their last couple of weeks have not understanding commands. So where you say like, put on your socks, she might know sometimes and other times she's not. So it's a lot of playing like show and tell, like like, this is how we wash our armpits, for example, as beautiful as that sounds. Like, this is make sure, let's put on our socks. Like, this is how I put on my socks. Or trying to keep giving her that little bit of independence, but also kind of helping her at the same time. It's like she looks at me like she understands, but I might have to, we all have to repeat ourselves. And it's like important not to get frustrated, because whether she knows me or not, I know she trusts me. Like, there's that facial recognition. She feels safe. She feels safe with my sister. But when there's someone she doesn't feel safe with, even though she might have known them their whole life, or doesn't recognize them, she definitely will, you can read her energy, like I said before, and she'll cling to the person closest to her, because it's hard to show, like, do things with her anymore. Like, we used to do puzzles and play Trouble. Trouble is her favorite game. So we've been playing Trouble up till like a couple weeks ago, and keep trying to play too. So it gets her to count a little bit. But she knows when you want to spend time with her. It sounds so silly saying it out loud, but she knows that you want to engage with her versus being physically near her. So where I'm sitting with her trying to be, or, following her around, if my dad's out in the front yard and she's just like, he's doing something else and she's just wandering, I think she knows that the type of time spent together in some weird way is that attachment, and that she knows that, like, you're giving her attention, whether she's truly engaging or not. You still have to try, because I feel like she notices that little bit of stuff.
That's interesting that you say that, because my last question for you was going to be, in this new stage that she's in, like, how do you connect with her? Like, there's no right or wrong answer on that. I'm just curious.
So I think one of the things that my sister and I have been, a big components on is still talking to her and communicating with her and telling her we love her, and still be like, I'm Brittany and I'm your daughter, because if I ask her questions, how many daughters do you have? She doesn't know the answer. Or she'll look at a picture of her family, and it was funny the other day, you have to laugh. She's like, that's me. And those are my daughters. It's like, oh, that's me, right? And she's like, and there's some guy. I'm like, oh, dad. Okay, that's dad. And she, she'll still call out for Jeff a lot, which is my dad's name. It's also my husband's name, so that's extra confusing. So we don't even bring that up anymore. So she still definitely knows my dad's name. And even though my sister's around a lot, she'll only say Alyssa here and there. But I noticed the other day when we were alone, she said, Brittany. Like, she needed something, and so she knew who I was in that moment, with no confusion, no other people around. So I thought that was interesting. But we definitely talk to her a lot. We try to engage and, sit down and color with her. Today I was baking some zucchini bread and had her try to help and read the recipe, to me. And then I think physical touch is a huge thing too. We shower her now, wash her hair, take her makeup off, help her use the bathroom, tuck her in every night, that type of stuff. And when I did her hair today, we wash it, once a week. She has that thick Italian hair, so she can go a week without washing it. It's more important to wash her body at this point. So I did her hair, and she sat there, and she was like, a couple months ago, she was trying to pay me. She was so thankful, that I would blow dry and straighten her hair. And today, she was like, Mom, you look so beautiful. She's like, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you. And like, went to hug me and stuff like that. So I think it's that physical touch and that physical connection that still counts. Even if it's my hand on her and she doesn't even notice, she will grab your, go for your hand when you're walking, for that safety. So I think physical touch is so important. I think just being close is a natural human, that's human, part of being human, right? Like, that's why COVID has been so hard, especially for people who want to be near loved ones and friends. Like, human touch is something I think we naturally want and crave, even in our darkest moments. So I do think that's one of the ways that we still connect with her.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, let's upbeat it.
Okay,
let's get it
sounds good.
I can't wait to hear about.
Let's talk about Lisa the Dancing Queen.
Full disclosure, my email was Dancing Queen before I became an adult.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So Lisa and I could cut a rug.
Yeah.
You didn't even know that, huh, Maria?
I did not.
Now you do. Dancing Queen. Okay, enough about me. Let's hear about Lisa. Tell us all about her.
Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, we were born and raised on Eastern Long Island, on the North Fork of Long Island. where my mom actually spent all her summers. That's where she met my dad when they were 15. So she's originally from Old Westbury, which is closer to New York City and Nassau County. She's 100% Italian, and she was fiery. So my sister looks way more Italian than I do. And so every summer, she was one of 5. Every summer they would, she would say the day the, school let out, they headed out to Jamesport, which is my hometown, to their family's beach cottage, and would be there till literally the day before school started. And she said, Nana, my grandmother, we'd be scrounging around for the last of the school supplies in the store because we were like the last ones there the day before school started. So she grew up there, spent every summer out on Peconic Bay. I feel like I'm so fortunate to be born and raised out there. I mean, it is New York's version of God's country. It is beautiful out there, on the salt water. We grew up sailing. I, spent there out, every summer out there with my mom's sisters and her cousins. My mom's sisters live in Connecticut, in North Massapequa, Nassau County, so drive away, and Pennsylvania. And they always made every effort to bring us kids together because we're all around the same age. So I feel very fortunate for that. That support system has definitely come into play, especially as we've gone through this. Let's see, what else about my mom?
Let me ask her, was she a good cook?
Yes, she was an excellent baker. She was a good cook, and I've kind of, so my friends say, I've inherited that. But she always used to give me, crap for, I taught you, always baked for you growing up, and you don't want to even bake. I was like, I'm in college. Of course I don't want to bake. I booze and hang out. But now I bake all the time, and I feel like I've inherited, and that's part of me is baking, and that's kind of almost my own therapy in a sense. I might not eat it, I'll give it away to other people or make it for other friends, but baking, she was always a baker, super creative, writing poems, doing artwork, handmade cards. She was the mom that was putting homemade cookies in my lunchbox, and I was trading them for Hostess cupcakes with the other kids. Like, you want these Fraser chocolate chips for that packaged cake over there? Okay. Yeah. Notes and lunch boxes every day, that type of mom. Extremely nurturing and loving. Where she was hard on us, she was, a million times more loving. Loved music, like I said. Met my dad early. They kind of, that connection on the beach, we always used to joke about that, of them meeting so early, and how could you love, someone that long, and how could you know that was the person you were going to marry? And my mom loves to talk about, and I'll try to find the picture from the slides. She would talk about this bright orange knit crocheted bikini she would rock. And she had, the straight jet black hair down to almost, her waist. And she said her and her sisters would lay out and just tan with every oil. That's not approved today. Please don't do that. But the pictures of her, she was a tanned goddess. She was absolutely gorgeous. And so she was the ultimate beach babe. She's, but also New Yorker at heart. Like, she always told me, black, it always needs to be a staple in your wardrobe. And now I look at my wardrobe, even in Southern California, I'm like, okay, I'm becoming Lisa. It is 90% black. Where's all the color? So she was definitely, loved a good time, loved family, would do anything for family, and loved music, live music, always turned on music, always dancing, always, getting us together and just having the best time, always full of laughs too.
Oh, I asked if she was a good cook because I'm half Italian and I'm a horrible cook. So I was hoping Lisa would hold up the Italian people because
from the baking stand. Yeah.
Okay, good to know.
Her mother, rest in peace, Nana, she was not a good cook. We would avoid the pot roast she'd make every year at Christmas. My aunts would always cook my mom instead. So I think with my grandma not cooking a bunch, she kind of would help as much as she could. So
could we maybe post one of her recipes? Could that be like a cute Instagram?
I actually have her recipe cards too. I was just looking at earlier today. Yes, so I'll snap a shot of one. Yeah.
You're so creative, Maria.
Well, duh.
You're hired.
Jeez. What was your parents' love story like? I know they met when they were young, but what did they teach you about marriage and love?
So yeah, like I said, they met when they were 15, dated other people until they got a little older. They lived in Kentucky where my dad went to college and worked for a while, getting into the horse industry. And then they moved back to Eastern Long Island where a lot of my dad's family is also from. So for a wedding present, they were gifted some acreage from my great-grandfather, my great-grandparents, who were originally potato farmers out there. Potato farming is a big industry on Eastern Long Island, surprisingly. So they started a horse farm there. And when I think about my mom they got married in 81 and I was born in 85. So my mom had me when she was 25. So my parents were really young. And when I think about, and my sister and I are 3 years apart. So my sister was born in 88. And then I think about how patient and how much perseverance they had too. When I think about, the physical labor that my dad did, building a horse farm from a field, getting business, because horses are not cheap animals to keep, figuring it out and raising a family. And my mom was fortunate enough to, she worked a little bit as an administrative assistant for an anesthesiologist, but she was able to be a stay-at-home mom. And then I think about how hard they worked to keep the family and the farm going. My dad at one point was managing a farm and running a farm. So he left work to come to work, but then I look at my mom and I think about, she was, the quintessential homemaker, but she was also, foaling a mare out in the barn. She was feeding the horses if my dad needed help, boarding out the windows during a hurricane. So she was, a woman of many talents and, was able to help my dad. And I think that also helped their relationship too, and just made their love blossom because they were each other's strength. My mom was, they say opposites attract. My dad's the more quiet, stoic guy, and where my mom was the fiery personality we talked about. But I think they balanced each other out. They had a lot of similarities that are complementary, but a little bit different. And I think they were independent, but we always grew up believing they made each other better, which they did, and they have. And my mom, loved my dad and would love him to the end of the time. And even the poems that she'd write, up until the last couple of years about him and how he was her true love. My dad said this is the love of his life, and watching her, slowly deteriorate has been really tough.
How is your dad doing?
It's definitely tough. I mean, it's tough on all of us. I do think there's that guilt, and my dad worked hard in life to, be at this point in their life in their 60s, traveling the world. Our dream was, for me to be almost like his co-pilot and me get my, my boating license and us sailing, up and down the West Coast and, like that, all those things we were supposed to do. Life has other plans. So I think he's definitely having trouble grasping what's happening, and he's not afraid to cry, and he's not afraid to talk about it. And he's definitely opened up more. And I think it's brought us closer too. We've always been a super tight-knit family, but obviously going through this either pulls you closer or breaks you apart.
Right.
And he's so thankful, to have my sister close. And she's a super nurturing person. She's also a social worker too. So she's really good at, tackling those hard conversations too in an appropriate manner where I can be a little more straightforward. But he's definitely struggled with this, but he knows how thankful he is and how fortunate we are. So I think that's also hard.
Brittany, can you say it for the people in the back? Because you hit it on the head when you said this disease will pull you together as a family or rip you apart. Like, I don't think Melissa may have mentioned like it's the disease of the family, but I can't agree with that more. Like, this disease will bring out really beautiful times, accepting the good, and this disease will rip your heart out, and it'll do the same for your relationships with your family.
Exactly. I mean, like I said before, I can't imagine doing this alone or leaving my dad alone to do this by himself. I might be physically far away at times, but I'm not emotionally far away. Mentally, I'm as present as ever, believe it or not. But I do think that this one person has a diagnosis, but it affects all of us in crazy ways. Like I internalize stress in different ways than my sister does, and that's okay. And where I might not cry as much as some other person, that doesn't mean that I'm not hurting.
Right.
And I think also being able to talk about our feelings is really important. I know that sounds all mushy-gushy, but I think it's important that we talk about.
We started our podcast to do that.
Yeah, I think it's important to discuss what's going on, and not to be embarrassed or hide it too. And yeah, it sucks. It really effing sucks. And it's not going to be better until she's in a better place for her. watching her slowly pass is hard, and it's hard for all of us on our different ways. When my dad is, losing the love of his life, we're losing the woman that brought us into this world and raised us. But like I tell my dad, like, her spirit lives within us. Like, she will always be here, and we can laugh about it because that's what Lisa would want. Like, we can have a good time. Like, we will, be out on the dance floor making fools of ourselves, to whatever John Mellencamp song they play. And that's okay. Like, because that's what my mom would want to do, and, have her family here and around us. And she can't, tell us or really feel those emotions anymore of how much she loves us, but I know she does. And I think that we have to be strong together, because I couldn't do this alone. He couldn't do this alone. My mom's sister couldn't do this alone.
Right.
We're her unit, and we're her caretakers.
Right.
Yeah.
That was really well said.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Totally.
Probably went in a little bit of a circle there, but
No,
it was great.
Oh.
The way you look at it is so, I feel like ready for battle. Like, okay, let's just tackle it. And it sounds like that's kind of how your family views the disease as well. You're not going to let Lisa just crumble in the corner. You're still going to play John Mellencamp. You're still going to color with her. I would be curious to know, my dad now, he's a lot further on than Lisa. He cries a lot still. I wonder, because you said, maybe my mom can't feel the happiness. I wonder if she's the happiest person out there.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
she has no idea that California is on fire, that I don't want to get into politics, that COVID is happening, that, she's probably just like, I'm here and I'm, getting to be with my girls, and we don't know. That's kind of the beauty of the disease as well, is like, we don't really know what's going on up there.
Yeah. And we have to laugh. Like, I feel so fortunate that I've had my mom till 35. Like, some people don't even get to know their mothers or lose their mothers.
I've had that thought too.
Totally.
Isn't it crazy how grateful and we become through this situation that I'm
it's so humbling. It's so
I
humbling.
had my mom for 30 plus years. Like, I'm so lucky that I had her as a mom.
It's just weird juxtaposition of like traumatic gratefulness. Like, I always knew I was grateful to have her, but now it's just taken to another level of gratitude that I didn't know was there.
Is that a word? Traumatic, or is that like a real phrase? Like,
I have no idea.
Gratefulness. I've wondered what it is, because I always say I'm more grateful now than I've ever been in my life, and
I made it up.
Oh, you should coin that term.
But it's I think that it's almost like a coping thing too, because I was going to ask you, like, obviously when you first get this diagnosis or you start experiencing this stuff with your loved one, you're not at this point where you're like seeing the good and as we say, accepting the good, and handling it and being able to like carry on with your life. So could you tell our listeners kind of how you have gotten to that point?
Yeah, it's been a journey. I mean, it went from anger of like, why? That selfish anger, like, why is this happening to my mom? Like, to the sorrow of like, I see other friends with their parents and that's just not us anymore. Or, moms going on, mother-daughter trips or family trips to different places, and their mom's cooking for them, or, my mom's not here to do this. So it went through those stages of anger of like, why, which I feel like everybody gets at some point, to sadness, to then me kind of almost hitting this internal rock bottom where I know that like my husband probably wasn't seeing my best version of myself. I don't know. I wasn't the best version of myself. I'm continually working on myself too. I'm grieving a person that's still breathing, but she's becoming more vacant. So I think it definitely is that journey I talked about, that learning experience. And then just realizing like, I could sit here and I could cry, which I still do. And like I said, I'm not a pretty crier. Or I could try to help my family more and do what I can, and then bring awareness to the situation. So it's definitely been a downward spiral to getting, to the top of the mountain. Because positivity, I feel like I'm a generally positive person, but it doesn't come easy because I always have a smile on my face, but there's pain behind it too at times, but I think getting to that place of gratitude and positivity and, digging our heels in and just getting it done, it took a while to get there, but it's a huge way of turning the corner to kind of look at things in a different perspective. When I asked her if she felt beautiful today when I did her hair, she smiled at me and asked me to take her picture, so there's those little bright moments, and you have to live for those, because otherwise you're not going to get through this.
Right. Very, very well said.
How do you think Lisa would want to be remembered?
I think Lisa would want to be remembered as, like I said, the dancing queen. The baker, the stay-at-home mama, that fierce female. She was so strong. She raised 2 strong women that are independent, that love music and love to dance too. So I think she'd want to be remembered for her creativity and her dancing and just the light that she brought to a room. And I think really her style too. She had pretty killer style in her day.
Describe your favorite outfit of Lisa's. Oh. I mean, I like the crochet bikini. That was
her living her like best teenage life. Yeah. In the 70s. Yeah. I'm like, I think I was born in the wrong decade. Let's see. She had some pretty killer looks. She's always had black eyeliner on and a fierce red lip. Even to this day, she'll still try to put on her lipstick, which is amazing. She can't tell you her name, but she can still line her lips and put on lipstick. It's weird how the brain works.
Right.
I would say she has this amazing leather black fringe jacket, and she'd wear some killer boots with it too. So something along the little bit of like Western meets city. That was right. Yeah.
Okay. I like it.
Throw in some diamonds and, call it a day.
Nice.
Lisa's on fire. Woo!
Yeah, she is.
So Brittany, have you prepared something to read?
Yes, I have. So she's written a lot of stuff that we've actually kept, a lot of cute kids poems, but I actually found today a poem that she wrote for my dad on his 44th birthday. She wrote that in 2001, and I think it's important because it talks about never forgetting him. So I'll read it if you allow me to. I might cry, so I'll try not to. But tears may be flowing.
I cry too.
I should forget.
Raise your tissues, Rachel.
Yeah, seriously. I'm the worst crier.
Yeah, my mom was a fierce lover. Like, she loved everyone close to her fiercely. She didn't have a big circle. She had a tight-knit circle, and I think that speaks greatly to her care and compassion for humans and people she loves. Okay. Forget a card. Forget the screams. You truly are the man of my dreams. Forget my anger. Remember my laughs. My desire to love you will never pass. Forget 43, you are now 44. We will smile with each other, at least till you're 84. Forget you, I never will. We'll always be in love, always shining like the stars up above.
Brightness in my life, how sacred and how rare.
Special thank you to Brittany for bravely sharing her story with us this week. Next week's episode is our first ever expert chat with the dementia guru, Ashley Stevens, so be sure to tune in. If you want to connect with us, you can follow us on Instagram at Remember Me Podcast. This podcast is produced by Maria Kent Beers and Rachel Martinez, and the beautiful music you hear is by Bailey Kent.